The lottery is legal in most countries, so it's legit, right? Nope.
Are you kidding me?
There are loads of dirty secrets that the lottery doesn't want you to know about. Of course, we've uncovered them for you, so stick around to hear all the things they've been trying to hide.
Who's coming with me?
Lotteries want you to be unemployed. That sounds like one of the weirdest conspiracy theories anyone's ever come up with. Except it's true. A study conducted by Indiana University professor John McKessel found that lottery ticket sales go up when unemployment rates rise. In the US, the economy goes through cycles where unemployment increases and then drops again as the economy improves and more jobs open up. But every time there's an unemployment spike, the lottery benefits. Don't believe me? You can actually see it yourself. Remember how, during the lockdowns, more and more people were losing their jobs? We all acknowledged how tragic that was for millions of people. But do you also remember all those gigantic lottery jackpots that were reaching over $1 billion pretty frequently? That demonstrates that more people were buying lottery tickets than before. But it's not just those occasional unemployment spikes that the lottery loves. They actually love all financial problems. Lotteries prey on the poor and desperate, and they're doing it all the time. Most of us will only play when we spot a gigantic jackpot, and we know we can spare a few dollars to try our luck. But the lottery can't wait around for us to buy a ticket. They need a lot more ticket sales than our occasional purchase to reach those huge jackpots. So where does the money come from? Well, people who are desperate for money. It helps the lottery even more if these people are uneducated, because they're more likely to believe that winning the lottery is their way out of poverty. That's because educated people are taught that winning the lottery jackpot is almost impossible. People without that education don't realize what a long shot it is. The poorer they get, the more they play. And the more they play, the bigger chance they have of becoming addicted to gambling on the lottery. But the lottery isn't really addictive, is it?
Yes, yes!
Think again. Buying lottery tickets can become a serious addiction. We're not saying you're an addict because you sometimes buy a lottery ticket. Most people who play the lottery will never become addicted to it, but that doesn't mean it's not addictive. Studies have shown that playing the lottery works on the same part of your brain as drugs, like cocaine. Basically, like all forms of gambling, playing the lottery releases dopamine in your brain. Dopamine is actually a good thing. It's a chemical that rewards you for doing things by making you feel good. Normally, the things that give you a hit of dopamine will be completing a job or, if you're a caveman, finding food. Those are good things, but gambling by playing the lottery or taking drugs give you a much bigger hit of dopamine than our bodies are used to.
Yes, yes, yes!
10 times as much as we get from completing a rewarding task. And that's why they become addictive. So even though there are no drugs involved in playing the lottery, a lottery addiction is actually a physical addiction. People become addicted to the high levels of dopamine released by their own brain. Now, don't worry, you're not going to become addicted to buying lottery tickets overnight. Research has shown that some people are naturally more likely to become addicted to things than others. Interestingly, these people often have less responsive reward centers in their brain. They don't get as much dopamine released for ordinary rewarding tasks as most people. So, if you're generally happy or enjoy doing non-addictive things, you're not as likely to get addicted to the lottery. But there's no doubt the lotteries benefit from people who do develop an addiction. And, as we mentioned, people who see the lottery as their only way out of a financial disaster are far more likely to become addicted to buying tickets. The more addicted they are, the more tickets they'll buy, even if they can't afford them. See how that helps the lottery out?
Are you kidding me?
That's pretty messed up, but those aren't the only people who are being exploited by the lottery. The winners are too. You never get the full amount that you played for. Some people play for small payouts, but let's face it, most of us are playing for those giant jackpots. In America, with the Mega Millions and Powerball jackpots climbing higher than $1 billion, many people are running out to buy tickets, hoping they'll have a fortune in their account by next week. But that's not what happens. Let's say they advertise prize as $1 billion. Even if you hit the jackpot, you're not going to wake up with $1 billion in your account. That's because if you choose to take the lump sum, the lottery will only pay about half of the advertised jackpot. So, the giant $1 billion Powerball jackpot becomes $520 million if you take the lump sum, because they only pay out 52% of the advertised prize.
What?
It's pretty shocking, right? Why do they do that? Well, they say it has something to do with the advertised prize actually showing how much money will be paid out over a period of time, if you include inflation. That's more like what you'll get if you choose the annuity payment option, where your prize is paid out slower over years, or even decades. But even if you do choose the annuity option, we still haven't mentioned taxes. In the US, lottery winners get taxed on their winnings, often even more than once. All lottery winners have to pay federal taxes on their winnings. But depending on where you live, you might have to pay state taxes as well. So, once again, you'll lose a huge percentage of your winnings. It can even be as high as 45%. And that's true even if you choose the annuity option. Taxes are deducted off every single payment. In the end, you come out with a tiny fraction of the jackpot that was advertised.
God damn it.
Pretty depressing, right?
Yes.
If you're a serious lottery player, it's almost worth moving to a country where lottery winnings aren't taxed. Yes, those magical places do exist. But even though you're not winning the full amount, it's still a lot of cash. It'll help you out, but if you're playing to help your family, you have a nasty surprise waiting. Using your lottery jackpot to help your family is harder than you think. Okay, so you've won the jackpot. Your problems are over, right? You and your loved ones are set for life, except it's not that simple. It turns out you can't just give millions of dollars to your friends and family. If you're going to be generous, the government wants a piece of your kindness. Ever heard of gift tax? Most people haven't. If you want to give money away, even to your own family members, you have to pay gift tax. Loads of lottery winners fall into this trap. They think they're improving life for those they love, but they don't realize they're losing tons of cash in the process. And that's not an exaggeration. In the US, gift tax can be as high as 46% of the money you give away, and that's after they've already taxed you on your winnings. That's a lot more cash than we're hoping to give to the tax man. And gift tax is not just a US problem. Almost every country has some form of gift tax, even the countries that don't tax you on your lottery winnings. It's not always as high as 46%, but it's always waiting to catch unsuspecting rich people when they're trying to be nice. In other words, you can't escape it. But don't worry, you're probably not going to win anyway. Unless you're on the inside, then you might stand a chance, because the game's rigged. Okay, not all the time. Mostly, a lot of steps are taken to ensure the game can't be rigged. I guess there could be something shady happening with the Powerball or Mega Millions, sure. But if there is, we don't know about it. But there are loads of stories about the lottery being rigged. So, here's a mini list of the most incredible lottery scandals from around the world. Trust me, they're pretty amazing. Counterfeit ticket from Cuba. Lottery officials from Cuba hit an idea one day. They were going to sell counterfeit Cuban lottery tickets to foreigners and keep all the cash from the sales themselves. It became so widespread that the tickets were being sold as far away as Puerto Rico, the West Indies, and even South Florida. The problem got so bad that the president of Cuba had to step in and put a stop to it. Tickets bought after the draw in China. If there's one way to guarantee you'll win the lottery, it's to know what the winning numbers are going to be. But how can you know that before buying a ticket if you're not lucky enough to be a real-life psychic? Well, 36-year-old Zhou Liqin from China noticed a flaw in the lottery ticket machine in his store. It allowed him to keep buying tickets for 5 minutes after the winning numbers were announced in the live draw. So, he simply bought a ticket once he knew what the winning numbers were. Then, he kept doing it. He got away with it for a while because he owned more than one store with a lottery machine, so he was harder to track. By the time he was caught, he already won $3.76 million. But his lucky streak didn't last long. He was caught and jailed for life for taking that opportunity. The Pennsylvania 666 scandal. Think these scandals only happen outside the USA? Think again. One of the most famous lottery scandals of all time took place in Pennsylvania in 1980. Nick Perry was the host of the televised live lottery number draw at the time. He got together with a man named Edward Plevel, who was working as a lottery supervisor, and they hatched a plan to rig the lottery. They weighed lottery balls with the numbers 4 and 6, so those balls would be more likely to come up in the draw. The room with the balls were double locked to make sure they couldn't be tampered with. Except the two men who were tampering with the balls also had 2 keys. When the draw produced the number 6 3 times, and 8 people came forward with those numbers to collect the jackpot, some lottery officials got suspicious. It wasn't long before they discovered what had happened, and it was pretty easy to find a suspect when they were the only 2 people with access to the balls: the blindfolded Italian children. Not all lottery draws work the same way. In Italy in 1999, they were using children to help them choose the winning numbers. These kids were blindfolded to make the draw random, but it turned out that was a terrible idea. There was a lot of ways you can get little blindfolded kids to pick your winning numbers. Obviously, just loosening the blindfold so the kids could see was one way they rigged the game. Another thing they worked out was they could paint the balls they wanted to come up in the draw with a super shiny varnish so the kids could see those ones through the blindfold. Finally, they came up with the idea of freezing or heating up the balls with the correct numbers so the kids could find them by touch. This was what unraveled their whole plan. During one draw, a ball was heated so much that a child burned its hand when it touched it. It's pretty hard to style that out. Everyone immediately realized what they'd been doing, and the scam was brought to an end. Those are a lot of ways the lottery can be rigged. We can only hope that the big lotteries aren't affected by those shady dealings, but it's not only the people involved in the lottery draws you need to look out for. Lottery clerks steal winning tickets all the time. You know that nice man who owns the store where you buy your lottery tickets? He may not be as nice as you think. There's a huge problem with store clerks stealing winning tickets. They check the ticket for you, and if they see you've won, they simply take the ticket for themselves. There are a few ways they do this. Some simply say you haven't won and pretend to throw the lost ticket in the trash, but they actually put it under the desk or in their pockets. Other clerks have a stack of losing tickets, which they'll give to you instead of returning your ticket. Or sometimes, they'll tell you you've won a small amount like $5, which they happily hand over. But really, you've won $5,000, which they collect for themselves. And nobody ever notices the wrong person got that cash. In one case, a man was told he'd won $5,000 when he'd actually won $5 million. And there are multiple lottery clerks who have taken home millions that way. The worst case happened in London when a 60-year-old veteran went to check his ticket. He knew he'd won something because the lottery machine made a noise in celebration. But the clerk refused to give his ticket back. Someone at the lottery tried to help the man and found out that he'd won $8 million. But the lottery had paid out the prize to the clerk who stole the ticket and refused to do anything to help. He still hasn't received his winnings while the ticket thief is living the good life with his money. The problem is so bad in the US that there are dedicated undercover lottery investigators who spend their time trying to catch clerks who are stealing tickets. How? They give the clerk a special ticket, which they know are winners of a decent amount of cash. If the clerk tells them they've won and tells them the right amount of cash, then they're fine. But if the clerk tries something sneaky, the lottery investigator alerts the authorities. That's the only reason we know about all the times clerks have stolen tickets. So, the next time you take your ticket to a store to check your winnings, make sure you watch the clerk closely. They're probably not trying to steal from you, but if they are, you'll catch them and keep your money. Another way to beat this problem is to buy your lottery tickets online. But as you're about to see, that's not a perfect system either. Online lotteries are destroying stores. Did you know stores actually earn a lottery commission? They earn money for ticket sales, and if a ticket they sold wins money, they get cash equal to a percentage of what that ticket was worth. It's pretty great for stores. A lottery machine also increases the number of customers in their stores because people come in to buy a ticket and then often buy other things too. So the lottery can really help stores keep their doors open, especially when they're small businesses run by a family or just one person who's trying to keep the doors open. But now, lotteries across the US and in some other countries are pushing for online lotteries, which are starting to take over. The lotteries will earn more money from this because people are more likely to impulse buy tickets when they can do it on their phones and don't have to go all the way to the store to buy it. But these changes mean that stores are suffering, and many are even being forced to close their doors. The lottery will tell you that this isn't a problem because so much of the revenue from ticket sales go towards uplifting the community. But that might not be true either. Lottery revenue doesn't end up where you think. This is one of the ways the lottery convinces well-educated people to keep buying tickets. They talk a lot about using the revenue from ticket sales to do good things. This can be anything from saving the environment to helping homeless young people. But in reality, the revenue probably isn't being used the way they claim. For example, back in 2014, the California lottery earned $1.39 billion. 97 million of that money was given to the Los Angeles Unified School District, which was used to improve learning and school facilities the next school year. The local lottery made a pretty big deal about it, so everyone knew how much good is done when you buy a lottery ticket. But that was one example, and not a lot of places are run as efficiently as California. Mostly in the US, the lottery revenue is put into a general state fund, and the state government decides its fate. And sure, sometimes it does end up exactly where it's supposed to, but a lot more often, it'll be spread out so far that none of it ends up where it was meant to be, or officials lose track of it completely. So basically, all your cash is spent on tickets, thinking if you don't win, at least someone will benefit from it, is actually just disappearing into a black hole of state funds. And that's happening to a lot of countries outside the US as well.